The wind rolled gently across the farmland of Kansas. Miles of open land stretched toward the horizon, broken only by long rows of wheat that shimmered under the warm afternoon sun. At the edge of one of those fields stood an old farmhouse. It belonged to a farmer named Robert Miller. Robert had spent nearly 50 years working that land. His hands were worn, his shoulders heavy from decades of labor. But his eyes still carried the calm confidence of a man who understood patience. Robert had 2 sons. The older one was Jake. The younger one was Daniel. Both had grown up on the farm, but they saw life very differently. Jake believed life was about speed. Make money quickly. Spend it quickly. Move fast and never look back. Daniel was the opposite. He believed good things took time. He had spent years watching his father farm, learning that the land only rewards those who wait. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped low over the fields, Robert called both of his sons to the wooden porch. The sky burned orange across the Kansas horizon. Robert walked out carrying 2 small burlap sacks, and the other to Daniel. Both young men opened their bags. Inside was wheat, just wheat. They looked up at their father, confused. Robert leaned back in his chair and spoke slowly. "Boys, I'm getting old. I may not be around to see many more harvests. But before that day comes, I want to see what kind of men you're going to be." He pointed to the bags. "Inside those sacks is the same opportunity. What you do with it is up to you." Jake barely thought about it. The next morning, he drove his pickup truck straight into town. He sold the wheat at the grain market. The money wasn't huge, but it was enough. Jake used it to buy new boots, a few nights out with friends, and some things he had always wanted. For a while, life felt good, easy. Meanwhile, Daniel carried his sack behind the farmhouse to a small, empty patch of land. He opened the bag slowly. Hundreds of tiny wheat grains filled the sack. But Daniel didn't see food. He saw seeds. The next morning, before the sun had even risen, Daniel walked out into the cold morning air. He grabbed his father's old tools and began turning the soil. The work was slow. His hands blistered. The ground was tough. Jake laughed when he saw him working. "You're wasting your time," Jake said. "You could have sold it and had money right now." Daniel wiped the dirt from his hands and smiled. "Maybe," he said calmly, "but the land always pays back patience." Weeks passed. Daniel planted every grain into the soil. Then he waited. Days went by. Nothing. Then rain came. Winter melted away. Spring warmed the earth. And one quiet morning, tiny green shoots began pushing through the soil. Daniel knelt down and smiled. Life had begun. Month after month, the small field transformed. Green turned to gold. Wheat swayed across the land like waves in the wind. When harvest season arrived, Daniel gathered the grain carefully. That one small sack had now turned into many. But Daniel didn't sell most of it. He planted again. The next year, his field doubled, then doubled again. Year after year, Daniel expanded his farm. Slowly, quietly, patiently. Soon, his fields stretched across acres of Kansas farmland. Trucks lined up during harvest season. Grain buyers traveled from nearby counties. Within a few years, Daniel Miller had become one of the most successful farmers in the region. Meanwhile, Jake's story was very different. The money he made from selling the wheat had vanished long ago. The boots wore out, the nights outstopped, and the easy life slowly turned into struggle. One afternoon, Jake drove past the golden wheat fields outside town. Workers were harvesting massive rows of grain. Huge combines rolled across the land. Curious, Jake pulled over. Standing near the barn, calmly overseeing the harvest, was Daniel. Jake walked toward him slowly. For a moment, he didn't speak. Finally, he said quietly, "We started with the same sack." Daniel nodded. Jake looked across the endless golden fields. "How did yours become all this?" Then he repeated something their father had once told him. "A seed isn't just food, it's a future, if you're patient enough to grow it." Jake stood there silently, realizing something painful. The sack of wheat had never just been wheat. It had been an opportunity. Some people consume their opportunities. Others plant them, and those who plant them harvest a lifetime.